Okay.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Joy Reid Show. Happy Friday, everyone, to everybody except Donald Trump. Everybody else, happy Friday. Thank you all for tuning in, whether you're tuning in on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. I see y'all are already in there, including our wonderful lemon heads who are all in the place, always jumping in real early and first, jumping in and speaking. Also, big ups to everybody that's tuning in on Substack, as well as our Facebookies. Hello, Facebookies, and our Twitchies. We have a stalwart, growing team of Twitchies, and we love you guys if you're on Twitch as well. So everywhere that you're tuning in, we just appreciate you being here. Even as the country goes absolutely insane. So happy Black History Month. And thank you all again for tuning in. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe. The algorithm loves it. We are at 409,000 subscribers and counting. We have gained about 10,000 followers just in the past week. So thank you to everybody who's supporting us. This is just on YouTube. We're also over we're also over 200,000 on Substack. So our Substack family is growing fast.
We are building steam. Joy.
We're building steam. We are building steam. You add up all of our group together, we're almost 1 million strong. If you put it all together, you just put us all together.
I just want to say good evening, family. How you guys doing? Enjoy the show.
Jason is in the house. He is in his laboratory. We've got a lot to talk about, you guys, because of course, Donald Trump has decided to celebrate Black History Month by becoming as openly racist as possible. So I want to read you guys a really great Black History Month quote, courtesy of one of Jason and my oldest and dearest friends, who happens to be a public school teacher in the Bronx. And the quote is from W.E.B. Du Bois. And I quote, "Either America will destroy ignorance, or ignorance will destroy the United States." And that is where we begin this evening. So here is what the post that Donald Trump put on his Truth Social Temu Twitter looked like at 11:40 a.m. yesterday. That is what the still of it looked like. And here is what you will find if you go right back to that same URL now. Not found. He took it down. It's gone. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who when first asked to comment early on Friday, this is what she said. She said, "This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public." So you say, Caroline. So Caroline, maybe you could please explain the context of your boss's post where he's supposedly being the Lion King, since from what we've been able to tell here at the Joy Reid Show, the post, which is a repost from something called patriotnewsoutlet.com, what it actually depicted, Jason, if you could just go ahead and roll it. What it depicts is Donald Trump's usual lies about the election. We don't have the sound up, but basically this person is claiming that they had forensic access to the voting machines in Georgia, and that the machines that count were manufactured in Taiwan. The motherboard is foreign manufactured. The voting machine tapes say clearly there was modern engagement and transmission of election data. They make this claim in the video that there were anomalies and that the 2020 election, 5 key states all stopped counting at the certain time at like 6 a.m. in key battleground states. And then, these were all Dominion and SNS voting machines. They named Smartmatic, and they talk about Georgia, and they start talking about Georgia specifically. Again, Donald Trump has seized the voting machines in Georgia. And so they're talking, well, Trump was ahead. He was ahead. He was ahead. And then all of a sudden, there's this massive spike that suddenly favors Joe Biden. It just suddenly happens, and boom, all of a sudden, out of nowhere. You saw that, right? Out of nowhere, this post that is supposedly about Donald Trump's stupid theory about how he was supposedly had the election stolen. And before I get to the Obama piece of it, you do realize that the reason people may stop counting at 6:35 a.m. is because all of the ballots that are same day and early voting are in, and now they're just waiting for the absentees, right? Or they've counted the early votes already, and now they're just waiting for the same day. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand how elections go. There are 3 sets of batches of votes, and then there's a 4th set, which is the overseas votes. So yeah, the counting will stop when you counted all the early vote. Then it starts again when you count the same day vote. Have you ever watched Steve Kornacki, Trump, or Trump Patriot, whatever you are? And then they count the absentee ballots. And now stop me if you've heard this before. The other person might go ahead when they count the other votes. Like it's not a conspiracy. But that random pop-in, which also had In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle on it, it just pops in for no reason whatsoever. There's no context to it. So how do you explain these two things, Caroline? Here they are. A4, we're going to put this up. These two things, how do they align with one another? I don't understand it, because you've got a post that is supposedly about election denial. There it is on your left. How does that on the left align with that on the right? What do they have to do with each other, Caroline? Because you're saying that we need to ignore this and go back to talking about things that matter to the American people. You know what matters to my friends, the American people? Why their president is posting a blatantly racist post. And by the way, there are no such ape-like creatures in The Lion King. Joining me now is our star-studded panel, anti-racism educator Timothy Jacob Wise, Public Religion Research Institute founder and chief demographer Robbie Jones, and friend of the show, and the left hook impresario Wajahat Ali. Who wants to go first? Tim, I nominate you. What do you make of this imbroglio?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, nobody's shocked, right? I mean, first, we're not shocked that Caroline Leavitt, the wearer of many a Jesus cross around her neck, has apparently decided that the part about false witness, which I think is one of the commandments, it's been a minute, since I checked it out, but I think it's still in there. I think that in modern parlance means don't lie, and yet she lies daily. So this is probably why I'm agnostic, because if there's a God, God would have smote, I think that's the word, Caroline Leavitt a very, very long time ago for her dishonesty. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, this is just par for the course. It's part of what he's always done, which is dehumanized Black people in particular, folks of color more broadly in general, as a distraction from other things, of course, like the Epstein files, all those kinds of things, but also because it's sort of who he's been. His dehumanization of Black people goes back a very long way. He certainly did that with the Exonerated Five, formerly the Central Park Five. He's always had this deeply felt white supremacy and anti-Blackness that animates him. And in a moment like this, he will pull that card because he knows that there is a significant portion of his base for whom that works. And the danger, let me be very clear, a lot of people will say after they stop lying about the fact that this was done and that it's obviously racist, they'll say, well, it's just meme culture. It's edgy humor. I think that's how J.D. Vance likes to put it. I'm sure that's what a lot of people believe. But the reality is, no matter what the motivation, and I don't give him a pass to believe that it's just edgy humor. Donald Trump has no sense of humor.
Correct.
But even if you think that it is that, let's be very clear. The dehumanization, the use of simian imagery, this is the oldest trope in the book, not just in this country, but in world history about Black people. The view of them as apes, right? That kind of imagery, when you dehumanize an outgroup, you make it easier not only to hate them, but to harm them, to kill them. It lowers the threshold for political violence, and not just overt violence, not just actual what we think of as physical violence, but systemic violence. It makes it easier to eliminate all efforts to promote civil rights and equal opportunity, which the administration is also doing. Very subtly for some, I suppose, very systemically, not as obviously as this video, but in a way that is going to harm people. We have 300,000 Black women who lost their jobs in the first 8 months of this administration because of the disproportionate attack on certain departments within the government that were disproportionately populated by employees of color, particularly Black women, and also the attack on DEI in the private sector. This is a president who is doing harm to Black people every day. This video is the least of it, but it is indicative of the mindset that has animated this man since he was a very young man, helping his father discriminate against Black people when it came to housing. So it shouldn't shock us, but it should enrage us. And the Democratic Party needs to not run away from calling this out. This is not, the idea that you're going to go into the election next year and talk about the price of eggs and affordability and not talk about rising authoritarianism and racialized fascism. That is a losing strategy, both morally and practically, for the Democratic Party. So they better understand the American people. There are millions of Americans who are offended by this, and they don't want to just talk about the price of eggs. They don't want to just talk about the price of housing. They don't want to just talk about the price of healthcare. They want to talk about the fact that their president is leading this country down into an authoritarian hellscape from which we may not recover.
Yeah. And the thing about it, Robbie, is, there are only a couple explanations here, right? Either Donald Trump is just an idiot who just retweets anything that he thinks supports his election denial, and he didn't watch it all the way through, which means he's probably too stupid to be president. Or he did watch it and enjoyed it and liked the fact that for no reason whatsoever, literally, it is completely irrelevant to the topic in the rest of the video to suddenly cut in, and not just like a clip of the Obamas, a photo of them, a little clip with the music for no reason. The Obamas have nothing to do with 2020. They had nothing to do with the 2020 election. He was not taking over the White House from Barack Hussein Obama. They had nothing to do with any of it for no reason. They're just thrown in there for no reason. So either he knew it was in there and retweeted that on purpose, or he didn't know it was in there and he should not, maybe he has too much dementia to use his Truth Social. Your thoughts, Robbie Jones, particularly since the notion of these supposed Christians was called out.
Right. Well, we don't know, obviously, whether he watched it all the way through or what. What we do know, though, is that it's very consistent with all kinds of things that he said. This week was also the National Prayer Breakfast. And man, if you listen to that rambling speech at the National Prayer Breakfast, he used dehumanizing language in that speech this week while he's supposed to be at the prayer breakfast. He talked about, for example, removing monsters from DC. And he was talking about mostly Latinos from DC again at the National Prayer Breakfast. And I just want to rehearse a few of the languages that he's used. So we don't, we can't know what was in his head, but we know that it's been very consistent. He's overtly used dehumanizing language. Just a few, just to kind of remind us here, garbage. He called Somalis in Minneapolis garbage, right? This led to these deaths and violence in Minneapolis. He's used the word vermin to talk about his political enemies. That is straight Nazi language. That is straight out of Mein Kampf, right? This is not like some, playful thing. He's talked about in Minnesota on the campaign trail about white Minnesotans having good genes in a way that others do not, and even called it the racehorse theory, right? This idea that white Americans have good genes and other Americans don't have good genes. He's talked about shithole countries, right, that are mostly black and brown countries, and he's called immigrants animals, even called them not human. He's used the word infested to talk about immigrants. So, this is a man who has, whether or not we know he intentionally retweeted that part or not, we know he's had this obsession with Obama. We know he's used this dehumanizing language all throughout his campaign. And I want to say with Tim, we know where this will lead. I think that is the thing we can't dismiss it as some random thing on the internet. We know where this is going to lead. Joy, I am from Mississippi. And I can tell you, all throughout the South, not only this idea that somehow African-Americans were not as evolved as white people, were somewhere down the evolutionary chain. That was a serious argument in the South. And also just the meme of the jungle, right? And whiteness being associated with civilization and blackness being associated with the jungle and kind of chaos and violence. All of that is right out of the KKK white supremacist playbook. That is and that's the hymnal that the president of the United States is singing from during Black History Month. We just need to kind of pause and let that sink in. And again, we know where this is going to lead. And I'm just going to be very explicit about this as someone who grew up in Mississippi, grew up in the South. This leads from bodies swinging from trees. This leads from white smoke from crematoriums. And this is also an administration that is building concentration camps across this country that is coming, frankly, for anyone who doesn't agree. It may come for people of color first, but it's not going to stop there. It's going to kind of come for everyone who doesn't agree with this president. But I think the main thing is this. this has been a tool all throughout, is the president sort of making these overtly racist things and then trying to walk it back and saying, I was just kidding. But this is how you soften the ground for violence. And that is exactly what this president is doing.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, and let's not forget that I believe it was his father or his grandfather, no, his father, that was arrested at a Klan rally, outside of a Klan rally. So it's not like Trump is, and allegedly, according to some stories, he used to have a copy of Hitler's speeches by his bed. And this is a man who doesn't read. Wads, let me bring you in because, this is also a man who has himself been compared to an orangutan. And in fact, he got so upset about being compared to an orangutan, which is orange, has orange hair and has very thin lips and has a, nose that looks a certain way. And I mean, the features are there. He sued Bill Maher for making a joke about that. Bill Maher compared him to an orangutan. He said he thinks he looks like an orangutan. Trump sued him for $5 million and then wound up withdrawing it. He withdrew the lawsuit because I guess he didn't want the discovery. I don't know what was that about. So Donald Trump has actually experienced being compared to a simian creature. So it's interesting that he's decided to go there about somebody who had nothing to do with the 2020 election.
Racists can dish it, but they can't take it. MAGA has weak chins, weak knees, and weak cankles. And allow me to respond by doing my impression of Senator Tim Scott, responding to the racist drop today. Heavens to Betsy, oh my God, let me clutch my white pearls and hold the hand of my real-life heterosexual wife. Could you believe that Donald Trump just posted the most racist thing? That must be the most racist thing I've ever seen them do. Next thing y'all gonna tell me is that Donald Trump incited a violent insurrection. Oh, he did? Next thing y'all gonna tell me is that he partied with a pedophile. Oh, yes, he did. Next thing y'all gonna tell me is that he was held liable for sexually assaulting a woman. Oh, he did? I'm shocked. I am surprised that this president could be racist, even though he was the man who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the death penalty of the exonerated five, even though he was the man who promoted the birther conspiracy against Obama, even though he was the man who said that Somalis and Haitians came from shithole countries. Y'all telling me in 2026 that this man is racist? That is wild.
First of all, the moment of joy is at the end of the show. Watch. Okay. And second of all, why was that also Lindsey Graham?
Because they're all the same. They're all the same. These hypocrites. Listen, folks, racism is the feature, not the bug. People say in America, I don't have a racist bone in my body. Every bone in Donald Trump is racist, right? This man is racist to the core. And Joy, you and I, for 10 years, have told our colleagues, you are on the artist formerly known as MSNBC. I was on CNN. We used the racist word. We used the word white supremacist. We used the word fascism. And our colleagues said, now, brown cow, he had a racial flare. He had a racial trip up. He had a racial mistake. And we said, it is not economic anxiety. All the data shows that is cultural anxiety that is the primary, not exclusive motivator for Trump's voters. This is who he has always been. And to Robbie's point, and also Tim's point, what I've always said is that Donald Trump is the inevitable end game, if you will, of America's enduring sins. The three enduring sins of America: white supremacy, unfettered capitalism and greed, and misogyny. Donald Trump is as American as apple pie and slavery. There's always been a Statue of Liberty welcoming immigrants home, welcoming people, those who are undesirable, to have refuge. And then there's a Donald Trump trying to grab her by the pussy, all right? Donald Trump represents America's inability to confront and undo its central sin of white supremacy. And now all these people coming out today, like Tim Scott and others, shocked by this, please miss me with it. And furthermore, I don't know if you saw that clip that went viral of the triple Trumper, the white man who called into C-SPAN. It's a fantastic clip where he says, this is disgusting. I didn't vote for this, but there was a telljoy. In his clip, as he was talking about the overreach and the economy and jobs, he said, now they're going after our children and American children. And the question you and I have had, Joy, many times is, how long will MAGA satiate itself with racism? How long will racism fill their coffers? How long will they be okay losing their health care, losing their grocery, losing their jobs? How long will Trump's cruelty be enough to sustain them? And today, and this is where this is actually, I know this is a small morsel of hope, folks, but this is a positive note here. His racism was so much today that for the first time in 10 years, they didn't double down on the racism. And this is really important because all of us here have been following Donald Trump's racism. What does he do? He does the Roy Cohn model, right? His mentor. Never apologize, never retreat, never say you're sorry, attack, attack, attack. He has doubled down on shithole countries, doubled down on the white nationalist agenda. Literally, Kristi Noem, to Robbie's point, Nazis, let's use the word. After ICE murdered Renee Nicole Good, she lied about it. She called her a domestic terrorist. They're not investigating Officer Ross, who killed her. They're investigating her widow. And she stood behind a lectern. The lectern had a phrase, one of ours, all of yours. That is a Nazi slogan used by the Nazis to justify the murder of every Czech male in a village after one SS officer was killed. They have used the DHS account to tweet not once, but 3 times remigrate, which is a white supremacist term that calls for the violent ethnic cleansing of all non-white people from Europe and America. But today, the fact that they took it away shows you a weak president, because he never, ever, ever apologizes, even remotely, for the racism. He doubles down. And what we're seeing now, Joy, for the first time in 10 years, he's underwater on the economy. He's underwater on immigration. He's underwater on healthcare. He's underwater on Epstein. And the white folks and the people of color, the privileged people of color who thought it wouldn't affect them, now they're saying this is the one trick you have to distract us, and it's a distraction and an advancement of a white supremacist agenda. Name it, folks. Stephen Miller. It's all there. It isn't enough for them. The racism is not enough for them because they can't afford food. They don't have healthcare. And now they're saying enough is enough. Now they finally discovered what you and I and Tim and the majority and Robbie have said forever. He's a racist man leading a white supremacist regime.
Well, I hope that's right. Let me jump in and say just a couple things. You know, I've been white a very, very long time. It'll be 58 years this year. And I never underestimate the capacity of my people to get it wrong when it comes to race, because the majority of us have for a very long time. That said, I'm also very aware of the long tradition of white anti-racist solidarity that I believe folks in Minneapolis are trying to connect to, that I believe tens of millions of white folks were trying to connect to 6 years ago during the uprising of 2020. So I do have a certain degree of hope that there will be some folks who have their little come to Jesus moment. I got to be honest, the guy on C-SPAN who said he was a 3-time Trumper, if he's telling the truth, that's fabulous. I do not believe that those of us who are progressive and believe in racial justice should expend an extraordinary amount of energy trying to get early adopters of this man to have that come to Jesus moment. Whatever gave him that moment, it may have been, you know, issues of affordability, or it may, but they're going to have, I'm not Jesus. I can't give them that moment. So they're going to have that. Now, those who were late adopters, those who didn't vote for Trump in 2016 or 20, and then for some reason in 24, you know, maybe some of them are reachable, and maybe that's worth it. I just want to make sure that we're not expending a lot of energy on the early folks. They're going to have their own, you know, solution to that. I also want to point out something that I think doesn't get said enough. I appreciate both Waj and Robbie's points about Nazism and the Nazi inflected imagery of both what the Labor Department's doing in their tweets and their memes. I just want to point out, though, we don't have to go to Nazi Germany to know what this is. We can go back to the overthrow of Reconstruction. This is not 1933 Germany so much as it is 1877 United States of America, keeping in mind that the Nazis stole from us.
That's right.
We are the ones who created the eugenic movement. It wasn't Hitler. We are the ones who taught the Germans how to do the kind of racial subordination that Nazism was rooted in. That's not to deny the overt National Socialist components of their messaging and their imagery, and a lot of the people that are behind their movement. It's just to say this isn't a foreign import. Right. This is something that we created, that we perfected. And, you know, if we were being honest, we would probably have sued Germany for intellectual property theft. Right. Because it was our product. And the only other thing I would say is that and Waj made this point, and I think it's so critical. You all both know, having worked in sort of corporate media, the way that this has been enabled by the refusal to call a thing. Right, not being willing to call Donald Trump racist, not being willing to, you know, and you know, editors denying that terminology in their own headlines or in their own stories. Assignment editors, people, producers saying, well, we can't use that word. Let's say racially infused, like it's amber water at the Sky Lounge, at the Delta Club Sky Lounge at the airport, infused with racism, but not actually racism. And when we deny the reality of the thing, when we refuse to call it what it is for almost a decade, because we're afraid, either we want to maintain access within media, or we don't want to offend the people who believe in Donald Trump because they believe in him, and we wouldn't want to call them racist. Therefore, we don't use the term. What ends up happening is the envelope keeps getting pushed, the window keeps getting moved, and we end up with these kinds of dehumanizing memes, or the kinds of dehumanizing language that Rob was talking about, which is day after day after day. The threshold of acceptable white supremacy gets lowered when the media doesn't do its job. And when the opposition party, frankly, doesn't do its job either, doesn't want to call it out because they're trying to appeal to those, the tens of Liz Cheney voters, right? That's the dozen Liz Cheney voters are the ones you care about. So you don't want to call a thing a thing. We just have to get over that and be honest about what it is that we face right now in this country.
I'm going to make one quick point, Joy. I know you want to get in one quick point to Tim, because I think the kind of other bookend to Tim, exactly what you're saying. We don't have to go back to 1933's Germany to see the problem. I think we also don't have to go back to 1933's Germany to see some of the solutions. Because what we have had, if we really look at, like, particularly if you're looking at Christianity as kind of being the problem, there's also parts of Christianity that have been the solution. And I want to particularly hold out the civil rights movement that actually came through. Here we are in Black History Month, that came through churches of color in this country, and particularly the Black church. And there are resources there, right, for us to kind of look to that are American resources through the Black church and the civil rights tradition for how to resist this racism, how to resist white supremacy, how to resist fascism. And we're starting to see some of that show up. If you look at the clergy that showed up in Minneapolis, it was people of color, but it was also, and here's what's interesting, the non-evangelical white Protestants are beginning to stand up. And I think that fissure, and that group voted 6 and 10 for Trump, right? But if we're starting to see key leaders in the non-evangelical white churches being arrested and putting their bodies on the line, along with their Black and brown sisters and brothers in the church, like, that's the start of, I think, the dam starting to break. And I kind of want to hold that up. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Hold on. I want to bring in Karen Attiah. We actually had her for the next block, but I want to bring her in. If we could get Karen to come on in and get in on this. The mainstream media has been invoked, Karen. And, I have been cruising through the coverage of Donald Trump's post, and a lot of the media have now moved on. This was a big story this morning, but it seems to me that it's a much more profound story than just Donald Trump tweeting, maybe because he didn't watch through the whole, 30-second video. He tweeted something that is so vile that any president who tweeted it, normally this would be an all-day scandal, more, if not an all-week scandal. Your thoughts on just the way it's been covered, Karen, if you could, before we get into the destruction of the Washington Post.
Frankly, it's all tied together in my mind, right? I'm just thinking of this crazy racist imagery happening on the heels of the mainstream media, whether it's CBS, now the Washington Post, purging all of its journalists of color in so many ways. I mean, to me, again, it's no accident, right? And I've always said, and anyone who's followed my work has always said, right, that the mainstream media is ill-equipped to cover Donald Trump because it is ill-equipped, as many of your guests have already said, ill-equipped to really recognize and call out and name the problem of racism in this country. But for me, having had a front row seat, right, to the purging of Black journalists of color from mainstream media is just, it feels very much almost deliberate, right? In terms of now, I think personally, if these purges weren't happening, we would probably see a lot more coverage of what Donald Trump did, of, again, using this moment as a reminder, not just of Donald Trump, but, and his own personal racism, but of what this country has been, in that Donald Trump is a symptom. Donald Trump is an outgrowth. Donald Trump is a tumor that everybody can see and recognize, but really the cells that have fed this tumor have been around since the inception, right, of this country. And Joy, actually, I've been thinking, I think one of the last times I was on with you, right, was when I was at NABJ, and people may remember when I was co-chair at the NABJ, being the National Association of Black Journalists, when the association decided to give Trump a platform, and I decided to step down because I could not, in good conscience, lend my name to just knowing that Trump was going to use that platform to humiliate Black journalists. Yeah. And at the time, right, I was told by Black journalists, white journalists, everyone said, Karen, but this is going to expose his racism and this is going to save America. Black journalists, if we just learn more about his racism, this is going to save the Republic, right? And I think about that moment and that naivete, the normalization to where we are now, where he's arresting Black journalists, he's tweeting Obama and the Obamas as apes. And I guess for me, I just think back to the last 10 years, and I don't want to be like in constant I told you so mode, but I am in constant I told you so mode.
Yeah.
And it just is a reflection on even in our own industry and in the mainstream media, how comfortable we are with the humiliation of Black folks, even if it means just for a temporary soundbite. Yeah. And how that has led to where we are today, where it's been so easy to push out Black journalists, so easy to arrest, frankly, Black journalists.
Yeah.
That now we have no effing excuse anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing, well, we just need to see a little more of this racism, just a little bit. Then everyone will understand.
Then everyone will see it. And I will note that the Post has, and we brought Karen on initially because, on top of arresting Black journalists, as you said, there are now 2 Black journalists being indicted by Pamela Bondi. Pamela Jo Bondi is indicting 2 Black journalists for simply covering a protest inside of a church. Now, on top of that, Donald Trump's minion, who owns the Washington Post, the minion of his minion, has fired about a third of the staff. Jason, if you could put a B3, there's a gentleman named Emmanuel Felton, and I don't know if this is somebody that you know very well, Karen. He has noted now that his team that's covering race, the other reporter that was covering race was also laid off, as well as the editor in charge of race coverage across national. The team covering America beyond DC is now 90% white. Karen, they also laid off effectively their international coverage staff. They've decimated the Post. It feels deliberate, and it is quite coincidental in a horrific way to what Donald Trump posted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the timing of this is almost chef's kiss. Yesterday, I'm here in DC. Yesterday, I was at the rally, at the Save the Post rally, where hundreds of my former colleagues were outside, and a number of us, Black former posties and posties, we were running around. It was almost like being at a scene of a crime and trying to pull bodies out of the rubble. We were trying to figure out who's left, who's survived. And even in terms of Black journalists, again, DC, at least according to the last census, is almost near 40% Black, according to the last census. It is very possible that out of a newsroom that used to be 800 people, that is very possible that there are less than 10 or 20 Black people at that place remaining. Less than 10 or 20 that we could count yesterday. Again, like I said, it felt like trying to count survivors at a missile attack, right? And it's, what can I say? It's deliberate. It's also, to me, deliberate in terms of we were trying to figure out who is left that can speak languages other than English, to be able to cover not only international stories, but even to cover immigrant stories here in the DC and the Maryland, Virginia region, right? This has profound implications, not only for communities of color, Black people, profound national security issues when you have journalists that can't speak the language of the people that they're trying to cover, right? And it's like I said, I mean, and you said it's a decimation. It's a It's a feeling.
Reset, Karen. They call it a
Right?
strategic reset.
A strategic reset.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
This is what they're telling. Here's Jeff Bezos. He's destroyed a venerable institution. Rich white man destroys a venerable institution, the Washington Post. You have another rich white man, Elon Musk, who has destroyed everything in his wake. And his pushing through cuts in USAID now is estimated it may kill tens of millions of people around the world. He can't even make his own rockets work without blowing up. I do want to say this. At least we can say that Elon Musk has proven there is one unqualified African-American in this country that we've been able to identify. So it's him. So that's
and by the way, there are only 2 immigrants mentioned in the Epstein files, and that would be him and Peter
That's
Thiel.
right. And I was going to say, and then you have a rich white man, Donald Trump, who's wrecked the country, and the Epstein files are littered with rich white men. I think the message of all of this, the destruction of the Washington Post, everything Elon does and his buddies, with Doge, what Trump has done, and what we see on that island is that when you turn your society over to rich white men, this is the nonsense, this is the mishigas that you end up with. And so we have to then decide, isn't it ironic that we're being told what you don't want is black people in charge? My goodness, that's all DEI. They're all unqualified. And yet all of these hyper qualified, supposedly meritorious, high SAT getting white men who were supposedly such geniuses have brought us to the brink of ecological disaster, a pedophilic, disaster on Epstein's Island, the destruction of the Washington Post, the wreckage of the American democracy. I mean, how much evidence do you need that maybe what we need is more black and brown folks and more women of all colors and less of these white guys who are doing all the damage, not only in the United States, but around the planet?
Watch, I'm going to have you close this segment out because I know that you will give us a mic drop. So please.
The mic drop is this. As Jeff Bezos, one of the wealthiest people on earth, who's worth $250 billion, couldn't find the chump change in his car to pay the third of the journalists who were laid off, on Monday, he toured with Pete Hegseth his Blue Origin space facility in Florida, where he was looking for national security contracts to build missiles and weapons. Over the weekend, Amazon spent $75 million, not on the journalists, but oh no, on a Melania documentary that they produced. Who did they get to direct that movie? Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner, by the way, is in the Epstein files. CBS News, David Ellison, the Nepo baby son of Larry Ellison, brings on Barry Weiss to decimate CBS. What does she do? Gets rid of all the people of color. Who does she hire as a commentator? Dr. Peter Attiah, who's all up in the Epstein.
No relation.
Yeah. David Ellison's father, Larry Ellison of Oracle. What does he do? Buys up TikTok. What does he do? Throttles TikTok when it comes to any critique of ICE. What does Elon Musk do? Buys up Twitter. Who was in the Epstein files who had a wild party with Jeffrey Epstein? Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. Who founded Palantir, which is creating the surveillance state that ICE is using right now to create a database? Peter Thiel, who was in league with Jeffrey Epstein and agreed with him that we need a post-World War II order and pro-eugenics where I'm not making this up, their seed will repopulate the earth. It is a broligarchy, and what connects Elon Musk to Stephen Miller and to Russell Vought, who is the co-author of Project 2025, is yes, they're connected to Donald Trump. Yes, they're connected to billionaires, but what really connects them is their end game, folks, is white power. And their avatar is Donald Trump, who is racist to the core. Call it out for what it is. And I'll end on a positive note with Robbie said, there's more of us than there are of them. There's a multicultural coalition. And when white people in the 60s realized, hey, that's my son marching with black people getting beaten up, that's wrong. When white people saw their blood being spilled, when white people saw their kids being beat up, when white people are seeing Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy being murdered by ICE thugs and agents who are like the Gestapo and the Slave Patrol, maybe, just maybe, Joy, inshallah, maybe, enough white folks will join the rest of us and say enough to white supremacy and fascism. Ameen.
It's why we call them spicy. Timothy Jacob Wise, one of the deans of the Spicy White crew, Robbie Jones, the also fellow dean of our Spicy White friend crew, Karen Attiah, not only a journalist, formerly of the Washington Post, on doing incredible work on race, gender, and human rights and international affairs. She's also the founder and lead instructor for the Resistance Studies series. We will put a link below as well. I want to note that Robbie Jones and I are doing an ongoing series on combating white Christian nationalism. Episode 3 of that will host in the third Wednesday of next month. You want to continue to follow that. And of course, our friend Wajahat Ali, who drops mics for a living. You're going to want to follow him. He says he's a bad capitalist, but I actually think you're not that bad of a capitalist, my friend. The Left Hook on Substack. Timothy, I don't know where to find you. Tell me where I find you. I just always Google whatever you say and I just listen to the clips.
Instagram is Tim Wise Official, and that's probably the easiest place. I'm still over on Elon's site just because I like to troll Nazis every now and then. My blood pressure drops a little
Doing
bit.
the Lord's work,
I'm
man.
there at Tim Jacob Wise. I'm on Bluesky at Tim Jacob Wise. I'm on Instagram at Tim Wise Official. That's where most people find
So we don't have to. He's trolling because I used to do that a lot, and my bosses really hated it. So I don't do it anymore. So you do it for me. Thank you all very much.
Really Crenshaw, so I can get away with it. So
I love y'all. Thank you very much. Happy Super Bowl weekend. Thank you all for being here. That was a good one, and I think the chats loved it. Very important work. But we're also going to talk with, speaking of Black excellence, Chicago is standing up to Donald Trump. They're standing up to Donald Trump because we still have issues like this. This is C1. Take a listen. Oh, there it is.
Tell you this, brother. What? You know, I will tell you this. You raise your voice, I raise your voice.
If I raise my voice, you'll erase my...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious? You said if I raise my voice, you'll erase my voice?
Yes.
I'll erase your voice. We still don't know the identity of that ICE agent, but that is a pretty chilling threat to make to somebody who was simply observing what that ICE agent was doing. And that is the context in which Democrats are holding out on a vote to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security unless a series of demands are met. I am holding this series of demands in my hand, which the Republicans have called absolutely outrageous. Let me read those demands to you. They want targeted enforcement. DHS officers cannot enter private property without a judicial warrant. They want to end indiscriminate arrests and improve warrant procedures and standards and require verification that a person is not a U.S. citizen before holding them in immigration detention. They want the masks to come off. They should not be able to wear face coverings when arresting people. Require ID. Require DHS officers conducting immigration enforcement to display their agency, unique ID number, and last name, just like the regular police do. We're talking about ICE and Border Patrol. Protect sensitive locations. Prohibit funds from being used to conduct enforcement near sensitive locations like medical facilities, schools, childcare facilities, churches, and polling places, as well as courts. Note the polling places are included. Stop racial profiling. Prohibit racial profiling based on job, language, where you're at a certain location you're at, your spoken language or your accent or your race or ethnicity. Uphold the use of force standards. Place into law a reasonable use of force policy to stop maybe them from, killing people. Ensure state and local coordination and oversight. Make sure that the local officials and the local police get to have a say. Scale operations outside of targeted jurisdictions. Require the consent of states and localities to conduct large-scale operations. How about that? Build safeguards into the system. Make it clear that all buildings where people are detained must abide by the same basic detention standards that require immediate access to a person's attorney. To prevent citizen arrest or detention, allow states to sue DHS for violations of those requirements. Prohibit limitations on member visits, meaning Congress can visit the facilities to make sure they're, clean and not serving poison food. Body cameras for accountability, not tracking. Require the use of body cameras when interacting with the public and mandate requirements for the storage and access of the footage. So, we can FOIA the footage. And no paramilitary police. Regulate and standardize the type of uniforms and equipment that DHS officers carry during enforcement operations and bring them in line with civil enforcement. Basically, make them abide by the same standards that your local police have to abide by. You know what Republicans have called this set of demands? Outrageous, insane, an attempt to destroy ICE, an attempt to remove ICE, an attempt to eliminate ICE. Incredibly outrageous. They've said this is a bridge too far. I just read the standards. That is what they're demanding, that Republicans have said are a bridge way too far. Well, some cities are not waiting for federal lawmakers to get their act together. The mayor of Chicago, for one, is taking executive action to begin holding ICE accountable. This is C3, and this is the clip of the mayor of Chicago. All right, we're going to bring that up in just a second because we, I believe, have our guest in place. That's all right. We can move on. We can go ahead. Let me just go ahead and bring the mayor in. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is here. Yeah, you can bring it up.
Executive order will make Chicago the first city in the country to set the groundwork to prosecute ICE and Border Patrol agents for criminal misconduct.
What we have seen is acts of terror and chaos distributed across this country, and particularly here in Chicago, and there has been no accountability. And what this executive order is doing is showing up for the people of Chicago, but really creating a model for the rest of the country of how do we hold these federal agents accountable. I've been working with mayors across the country to do the same because, you know, ultimately, without a clear pathway to accountability, our concern is that these rogue, reckless actors will continue their acts of terror because we've already been pre-warned that the desire of the Trump administration is to send more federal agents into cities across America, and particularly Chicago.
And Mayor Brandon Johnson joins me now. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Talk a little bit about these new rules that you are implementing in the city of Chicago to try to protect people from ICE and DHS.
Well, thank you for your work, and just listening to your show and following you. It's an incredible, just an education. It's a civics class, it's an economics class, the humanities. As a former social studies teacher, I really enjoy the consciousness in which you are bringing to America, and what we've seen in Chicago and in cities across America. We have seen rogue, reckless federal agents believe that they can act with impunity. And I've made this very clear, that no one is able to, behave beyond the scope of the law. And we've had, a father dropping off their children to school, get gunned down by federal agents. They lied about it. Another woman who testified before Congress about her experience, how she was shot 5 times, and by God's grace, she survived. The indiscriminate releasing of tear gas on residents across Chicago, including our police officers. Look, there are countless examples of how the Trump administration has, behaved outside of the confines of the Constitution, and it has caused a great deal of consternation and terror. And so what I did, I put forth an executive order to create a pathway for accountability and prosecution. What it requires is my police department, I've given them clear direction that when they show up on scenes where federal agents are present, that body cameras seeking the supervisory leadership that's on the ground, and that in the event there's behavior and actions that are being taken that reflect criminality in nature, that evidence is not just received, but it's preserved. And then we create a package that allow for us to present that evidence to the state's attorney. And like in any case, it's the jurisdiction of the state's attorney to decide whether or not to pursue prosecution.
The governor of your state has also encouraged Chicago residents to record ICE using their phones. Is that kind of evidence, if that's turned in and placed in a database, do you foresee that evidence, along with evidence from police body cams at ICE stops, being used potentially to prosecute ICE agents as well as Border Patrol? I don't know why Border Patrol would be in Chicago. It's pretty far from the border. But to potentially prosecute ICE agents who break the law.
Absolutely. This executive order has created an infrastructure that allows for a past behavior and incidents to also be under the scope of investigation. Look, here's what the people of Chicago have called for. They want true accountability. First of all, we don't want our cities to be occupied by a militarized force that is under the direction of what clearly is a tyrant. And we needed to have a clear mechanism in which the people of the city could have confidence that their record and their experience will not only be preserved, but it will be passed along so that the state's attorney, who has jurisdiction over prosecution, has evidence to be able to pursue justice on behalf of the people of Chicago. What I am encouraged by is that there are district attorneys around the country, being led by the district attorney in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, that has formed this collection of leaders to begin to find uniformity around how cities across America can show up. Last week, I was in D.C. with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Democratic mayors, Republican mayors, all of us in alignment around how this president has trampled all over our Constitution and has created terror in cities that mayors are ultimately left to figure out. So there is an ongoing effort and a strong coalition across cities in America that have found strength in what we're doing in Chicago. And the encouraging part, of course, is that more people are standing up to become a witness in this moment. And it's incumbent upon government leaders to create infrastructure that allows for accountability to be pursued.
You know, I think everyone remembers, coming out of Chicago, that incident in which federal agents rappelled onto a building and went in and started dragging men, women, and children in their night clothes or sometimes half undressed out into the cold, into the street, and throwing them into the back of trucks, et cetera. Has there been any resolution of that case? Is that apartment building still open? Is it still operating? What happened to those people?
Well, first of all, thank you for just elevating that. It was not only the night terror that was caused by the Trump administration. He went one step further and began to brag about it. He said Chicago is going to find out why we changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, literally declaring war on American cities. Never in a million years did I imagine that my role as mayor of Chicago would be to not only build safe and affordable communities, but to defend our city against the federal government. And so that apartment building and that complex has left many people in duress. And so I'm working with my city departments to find comfort for these families as we look to place them into homes that they can be safe in. And it wasn't just that. That act of terror. There was a Black man on the west side of Chicago whose car was crashed into by a federal agent. And then, they pulled him out of his vehicle, put him in an illegal chokehold. And Joy, an illegal chokehold by law enforcement, that is a death sentence to Black men in America. And so it's those acts of terror. It's that type of evidence that we have to collect and place that squarely in the hands of the state's attorney to give the state's attorney the impetus to move forward with prosecution.
Are you concerned? I mean, when Donald Trump talks about nationalizing the election, it's very clear that he means cities like Chicago, where there are a lot of Black people, a lot of Black voters. He's not trying to send ICE into rural Illinois. He wants to send them to Chicago. Are you concerned that these armed, masked, federal, basically secret police are going to be swarming the polls during the primaries and in November in your city?
I am, and I'm looking at other protective measures to make sure that free and fair elections continue to drive our democracy. I've said this repeatedly. Justice Brandeis, the first Jewish American to serve on the Supreme Court 100 years ago, he said that we could either have a democracy or wealth concentrated in the hands of the few, but we cannot have both. We are literally in the midst of fighting to protect what is sensible about our democracy. And what is fundamental to our democracy is the ability to be able to vote. And so I'm looking at measures, working with our Board of Elections, as well as our stakeholders to ensure that this attempt by this president to not only dominate this cycle, but to set a different course that would be incredibly harmful for working people, that we find ways and measures to protect the fundamental right of our democracy, which is the ability to be able to cast a vote.
When we came out, when the Joy Reid Show came to Chicago to talk with you, to sit with you in your office and with your drum set and all of the things, we talked about the challenges that you faced as a progressive mayor coming in and trying to create a working relationship with the Chicago Police Department, which has had its issues, which has had its scandals, which has had its problems. How has the imposition and the occupation of your city by ICE shifted the relationship between the Chicago PD and the citizens? Because it's a strange thing to watch in Minneapolis. People in Minneapolis now looking to the MPD, who are the ones who among them killed George Floyd, members of them killed George Floyd, saying, I need you to protect me from these federal regime police. Is the same thing happening in Chicago, where now suddenly the Chicago PD find themselves in a position to maybe rebuild their relationships with people because they're now the protector?
Mm. Yeah, look, well, the whole point of Mayor Harold Washington, the first Black mayor in the history of Chicago, the whole point of him establishing the Welcoming City Ordinance was to do just that, to ensure that the relationship between law enforcement and the community would not be strained, right? So it's why we have, you know, an updated version of the Welcoming City Ordinance, where our local police department, we do not engage in support with civil immigration enforcement, particularly obviously without a warrant, because what we have seen is when local, when community members have a strained relationship with local law enforcement, it makes it harder for us to build safe communities. In fact, Joy, where federal agents were most present in the city of Chicago, violent crime actually stifled, right? Where we had the lowest amount of homicides in 60 years as we continue to build safe and affordable communities where federal agents were present. That there was strain placed there. And as I've worked hard with our police department to rebuild that trust within law enforcement so that we can continue to drive violence down, what the Trump administration has done has been, the antithesis to building safe, affordable communities and strong relationships and partnership with our community members. So it's an ongoing process. And this is why we have made it very clear that our local law enforcement, though we cannot put handcuffs on federal agents, we can certainly collect the evidence, keep the peace, protect the fundamental right to protest, and then any evidence that demonstrates, criminal behavior or abusive power beyond the strength and the confines of the Constitution, that evidence can be afforded to our state's attorney to ultimately put her in a position where she can move forward with prosecution.
Before I let you go, Mr. Mayor, I would be remiss if I did not ask you, as the mayor of Chicago, from whence came one Barack Hussein Obama, former United States Senator, the United States Senator from the state of Illinois, and also in District 1, which I believe would be your district, where I believe you live, and also obviously former President of the United States. The depiction of himself, of President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama as apes by Donald Trump in a since deleted Truth Social post. Your thoughts on that as the mayor of Chicago and just as a Black man?
Yeah, this president, Donald Trump, continues to just expose the evil that permeates throughout his entire, all of his blood vessels. And, the idea of Black excellence being something that he just cannot handle. He has a personal vendetta, I believe, against Black America. And, at a time in which we are standing on the shoulders of incredible Black leaders who have made this country worthwhile, even when this country did not recognize our value, we saw the value in ourselves to build a democracy that could outlive us. And I stand on the shoulders of incredible individuals like President Obama, to the First Lady, even though both of them are Southsiders, I'm a proud West Sider. We're all united in one thing, that, stop playing with us, Mr. President. Knock it off. We're here. We're here to stay, regardless of how you might feel about our presence. And just as our ancestors have saved and have developed and expanded this country, that is the same spirit in which we work under. And so we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be deterred by his evil, blatant racism. In fact, we're going to draw strength from it. And when we get to the other side of this, we're going to come out even stronger. And that's my word.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Happy Super Bowl weekend. I can't imagine that you have a dog in the fight, because of course your team isn't there.
Yeah, you know how Chicago is. It's like, we're going to come together, we're going to eat, and we will not be paying attention to the game. But I will say this, because the president has shown so much disdain towards Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny is going to be probably the show of all shows for people around the world to be able to see. So, we're going to enjoy the game. We're going to enjoy our family. Keep praying for us. My 18-year-old had a college tour, and Joe, I'm going through a thing right now. That brother was walking real fast on that campus, and time flies. But having a good time in Chicago. Thank you for your support too, and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. We love ChiTown. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate you. Yeah, enjoy Bad Bunny Bowl. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's real talk because look, we about Bad Bunny. I'm sorry to tell you, neither of them is my team, so we're about Bad Bunny, and the mayor is doing big things. I want to thank you all for sticking with us through the first hour of the Joy Reid Show. This is a strange time to be in the United States of America, but we're thankful to all of you who are watching the show. Thankful to all of you who tune in, and we're also thankful to our sponsors because look, independent media, we couldn't do it without our sponsors. So this show on this Friday night before the Super Bowl is brought to you by MSI United States. Now, unfortunately, there is more disturbing news today in this world for women. You know that reproductive health care has always faced political attacks, but what we are seeing now is just on a different level, broader, it's more coordinated, and unfortunately, it's global. The Trump administration announced today the expansion of something called the Global Gag Rule, which is used to deny aid to any charitable organization that has performed abortions ever. Now it says that all non-military foreign assistance, $30 billion, is available only to countries and organizations that will affirm that they will not provide abortions, talk about abortions with women under any circumstances, and won't have policies that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. It doesn't even matter what the citizens of that country voted for. If they do not align themselves to Trump administration anti-DEI and anti-abortion policy with no exceptions, rape, incest, no exceptions at all, this administration that's protecting the Epstein files have said no money for any country that does not align with them. This new Project 2025 driven policy is threatening entire national healthcare systems simply for allowing abortion care or even honest conversations about gender and equity. For more than 50 years, MSI has delivered contraception and safe abortion care in the toughest environments on earth. Powered by local teams, a global social business, diverse funding, and supporters who believe women actually deserve control over their own futures. So this is a moment when resilience matters, and individual donors are what make that resilience possible. So if you believe that access to reproductive health care, and it is health care, should survive politics, please stand with MSI today. This is where MSI United States comes in. MSIUnitedStates.org is a world-leading reproductive health provider operating in 36 countries, health centers that exist to save women's lives, and also to send outreach teams to remote areas in all of these countries around the world that need it. And because they rely less on US government funding, they're still delivering contraception and abortion care directly to women, even after those recent cuts. They've been doing this work for decades, often in the most difficult environments you can possibly imagine. And right now, private philanthropy is not supplemental, it's essential. It's what keeps clinics open and care available. So if you're asking yourself, yeah, but what can I do? Well, this is something tangible with real impact that you can do literally right now. You can go to MSIUnitedStates.org. That's M for modern, S for safe, I for informed, MSIUnitedStates.org, or just simply text my last name and Jason's surname, Reid, that's R-E-I-D, to 511-511. So if you text R-E-I-D to 511-511 or go to MSIUnitedStates.org, that's text Reid to 511-511, you can give a gift of $26, which is enough to give 4 women contraception for a full year. Just $26 for a full year of freedom from worry. So please help them out. So again, one last time, you can text Reid, R-E-I-D, to 511-511 or visit MSIUnitedStates.org. So let's keep those lights on and choice alive. Text fees may apply. Thank y'all. Appreciate it very much. So I don't know if it's just Mayor Johnson that's ready for Bad Bunny Bowl. I too am prepared because it almost doesn't matter like who's playing the game. Jason, do we even know who's playing? It's the Seahawks and Patriots. Do you know? You know, say Seahawks.
To be truthful, I have no idea. I haven't been paying any attention.
Only because of Angela Rye. I'm rooting for the Seahawks because Angela is my friend and that's her team. So I'm like, I'll go with that. We've decided to recreate ourselves into Baltimore fans. So they're not in it. So Baltimore's not in it, and that's my new team. Sorry, Broncos. I threw you over the side, and sorry, New York Jiggy Giants. I kind of walked away from y'all too because
New
I like
York
Baltimore.
only really has one team. It's not. Remember Giants and Jets were in Jersey.
They were in New Jersey technically, and I kind of just fell off the wagon. I just fell off the wagon. I got bored. I outgrew the Denver Broncos. I don't live there anymore. And when you're in Denver, it's almost like a religion. Like you have to be a Denver Bronco fan. You can't like go out in public unless you're doing that Orange Crush thing. But I've grown up, and now I like Baltimore. Like the colors, like the team. I like their players. So they're not in it. So I got no team in it, and I cannot stand the Patriots. Literally, it's an old AFC thing. It's an old, I cannot stand the Patriots. So whoever's playing against the Patriots, I'm for them. So go Seahawks. Not just because of Angie, but go Seahawks, period, with a T. Sorry if you're a Boston fan out there in the world, but I don't like the Patriots. It's a no for me. But the question beyond like who's going to win, the game, right, is what's going to happen to the people who are like watching and attending the game. I mean, the question of whether ICE is going to show up and ruin the Super Bowl for anybody brown in a state that's like 39% Latino. California is one of the most Hispanic states in the union. It's formerly Mexico. There are a lot of brown people there to choose from. It's only about 6% black, but it's also like about 20% Asian. California is one of the most diverse states in the union. Lots and lots of Asian people, lots and lots of Latinos. It's actually a majority non-white state. So if ICE really wanted to run roughshod, it would be the place to go. So people in the Bay Area, despite the fact that the NFL has said that there won't be any ICE operations taking place in the Bay Area, folks in the Bay Area are rightly skeptical. And I think they should be, because these people operate with no rules. They operate with literally no rules. And so people in the Bay Area are wondering, well, what's going to happen? Are these goons going to show up to our Super Bowl like keg party? Are people going to be trying to tailgate and all of a sudden the masked ICE regime agents show up and start throwing them on the ground, beating them up, stealing their cars? They've been taking people's cars or leaving their cars running on the side of the road. Are they going to destroy the Super Bowl? And of course, as our commenter just noted, the NFL owners are heavily Trumpy. So it's highly doubtful that any of them are going to stand in the way. So this game is at Levi's Stadium. It's in the Bay Area. And the Santa Clara City Council, which is where the stadium is located, they unanimously approved a statement emphasizing the support of the city for immigrants ahead of the game, which is, of course, on Sunday. And in case of any increased activity from ICE or other federal agencies, they're saying, no, we stand with our immigrant community. The council also passed a policy prohibiting the use of any city property, such as, parking lots or any open spaces for immigration enforcement. When that announcement was made, residents literally erupted into applause. The city manager, Jovan Grogan, said the policy will take effect immediately and city employees will begin installing signs at applicable public spaces. The city will also have template signs for private property owners, businesses, and residents who want to post a sign saying you cannot stage here. ICE is not welcome here, which is, I think, a good thing. So they're going to have a template that people can print out and make their own signs if you have private property and say, no, you cannot park here. A lot of people who have like extra parking lots will sometimes like rent out their parking spaces and allow people to use them if they're close to the stadium. They now are making signs. If you want to say, yeah, people can do it, but not ICE and not Border Patrol. The killer agencies can't come near my business. They can't come in my business. If you want to say ICE is not welcome to eat here, those agents can't be in here at all. If you want to do that, they're providing a template for you to do that. So I think that that's a good thing. But there is still this question of whether Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller are going to attempt to violate, because it's California where they hate the governor. Trump hates Gavin Newsom. It's California, which is a majority non-white state where the majority is brown, Latino. And again, not immigrant brown. California used to be Mexico. So the vast majority, by the way, 75% of Latinos are American born, they're American citizens. That ain't stopping ICE. They're stopping Puerto Ricans who are like literally American citizens. They're stopping Mexican Americans. If you have an accent or you're brown, just because you may have an accent or be brown, I don't mean you're not a citizen, but they're just presuming anybody brown is not. And they're also wreaking hell on Asian people, Asian Americans, most of whom are citizens, but a small percentage of whom are immigrants. They're wreaking hell on Hmong people, Vietnamese people, Chinese American people. They're going into Chinatowns. They are literally, because they have this 3,500 immigrant quota that Stephen Miller, the most ironic Jewish person in history, who acts like a 1930s Gestapo leader, and seems to be obsessed with deporting brown people. And also Tom Homan, the guy who took the cava bag full of cash and who is saying essentially, and said in his press conference, you better be nice to us when we come to roust you in your neighborhoods, or we're just going to keep killing you. You better be nice to us. You better let us in your jails so that we can take people who are convicted felons and release them into their home countries. If you don't let us do that, we're just going to go through your neighborhoods and keep killing you. That was his take. Worst hire Obama ever made. Wish they could take back the damn medal. Because I don't know how he's a Catholic. I don't know how he goes to church on Sundays. And of course, Kristi Noem, vacant-headed, person who they're now trying to scapegoat, but she's doing it, right? These people don't have respect for a national pastime that's supposed to bring the world together. So they don't care, right? So we don't know what they're going to do. We have no idea what they're going to do. These people are out of control. But I do know that one person, regardless of what happens, because Bad Bunny, who there he is, who ate at the Grammys, he got a handful of Grammy awards. This is the promo, by the way. The promo is just Bad Bunny dancing with many, many people. And they're mostly brown and black people. And I expect him to just go off and just do all the Bad Bunny. I'm trying very quickly to learn the songs. My Spanish it's decent. Wanji says I think Wanji gives me a C for my Espanol, but I can comprende un poquitito. And I can bailar. I may not be able to comprender, but I can bailar. And that's going to be me I'm going to be waiting for the halftime show. I don't even care about the game other than I want Seattle to win. So I'm going to be bailando with Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. I love Bad Bunny. And I know who's not going to be enjoying that, and that would be Donald J. Trump, who reportedly is not going to go and attend. He's been doing this thing where he's attending, sporting events in person because he wants to, sort of revel in the adoration of the public because he thinks he's Julius Caesar and he wants it, public, adore me. I'm Kim Jong-un. Adore me. He's trying to do that at all these events. But he's apparently not going to go to this one because he knows that people hate him in California, especially in the Bay Area. That's not your base, baby. That's not your base. I know Silicon Valley ain't far from there, but that's not your base, unless you're going to go and, go to Elon or Peter Thiel's house. And why would you want to do that? These people seem very weird and dry. I'm not sure he would even want to watch a game with either of them. They're very strange people. So apparently he's not going to go because he fears getting booed. So he's not going to go. And even if he did go, not only would he be miserable about Bad Bunny, Bad Bunny Bowl, the other act is Green Day. Green Day, who at Coachella last April changed the lyrics to their iconic song American Idiot, which could just literally be the MAGA theme song, to I'm not a part of a MAGA agenda. Not a part of a MAGA agenda. So literally, they hate him too. So, Donald Trump won't be enjoying the Super Bowl. Needless to say. But not to worry. Not to worry, Donald. If your dementia isn't fully kicking in, and you can remember that it's Super Bowl Sunday and your diaper isn't too full for you to sit for, 4 hours to watch the game, don't worry. You can have your own rockin' good time, Donald. You can certainly tune into the Turning Point USA alternative Super Bowl halftime show, which will feature, as every Trump event with music in it usually does, Robert James Ritchie of the posh Detroit suburbs, who styles himself as the Kid Rock, leading an all-star lineup of people I've never heard of. Sorry. I've never heard of any of these people. I don't know who these people are. If you all know who they are, Lee Bruce, Brantley Gilbert. I don't know who these people are. But this is the all-star lineup being led by Robert James Ritchie, who styles himself as Kid Rock. The rich guy who pretended to be a rapper back in the day, but who actually was just a posh Detroit suburban white gentleman who decided that he wanted to make a few dollars similar to the way that Vanilla Ice did. He wanted to be the other Vanilla Ice. And now he, along with Nicki Minaj, who was not invited, and Amber Rose apparently is not performing either, they're going to be doing their alternative Christian version of of the halftime show, which is probably going to be just as cool. It's probably going to be just as fun as Bad Bunny Bowl. When this whole thing started out, no Nicki. People in the comments are saying, what happened to Nicki Minaj? Apparently, Nicki Minaj is not on the bill, because here's the funny thing about the Nicki Minaj thing. MAGA hates Nicki Minaj's music. And Sexy Red, who is their other fave, they're not going to sit there and listen to Booty Hole Brown. I mean, look, MAGA they're okay with the Epstein files. They're fine.
We have a few people that have young children that be watching.
Sorry.
I don't think they want to know about
No, we don't want to know about it. But I mean, her songs are pretty gross. Her songs are pretty gross. And it's just not, I mean, I just don't think that, I just don't think it's going to happen. Like, it could happen, I guess, but they don't like Sexy Red. They don't like Nicki Minaj. Her lyrics, when they actually finally listen to her lyrics, they're probably going to be shocked and appalled to find out what she actually says in her music, because they like her now because she likes Trump, but I'm not sure they really do like her music if they really think it through. So she was not invited. I'm not surprised by that, because again, this is supposed to be a Christian, even Kid Rock's lyrics are like, they're not appropriate for a halftime show. A Kid Rock would never, ever be booked on a halftime show. There's no world, any time, any place, anywhere where Kid Rock would have ever, ever, ever been booked to perform for a halftime show. He's just not famous or popular enough. He doesn't have a big enough.
Somebody in the comments had some jokes. So why isn't she booked on this concert?
Well, because Lara Trump can't sing without the auto-tune to get her on key. Have you ever heard her sing? Like, she needs the auto-tune. She has to be like, I love Trump. He is my king. He is the king of America. And Trump is my.
Now do you guys see what I deal with on a regular basis? This is all
Lara
the time,
Trump. And then, she'll try to do the thing where she probably like, I'm gonna do a run and do my hand like I can see. See. That's how Lara Trump sings. It's way worse. No, you're right, because I was almost on key, It's hard. It's kind of hard to really do. It's really much worse than, I promise you. It's more flat, like Donald Trump is my king, and Donald Trump. It's just kind of like on that tone. So that's why she's not a part of it, because she can't sing either. And I don't think Amber Rose does sing. I'm not sure I never really was sure what she did. Like, I know she was like Kanye's girlfriend, but I don't think she's a singer either. So their new friends, inappropriate, or they can't sing. So, I'm trying to think who else they could get. I know Snoop probably like, don't even call me, because I did that. Been there, done that. That he's not going to do it. I'm sure Kanye is like, I got a new album. I just renounced, my pro mustache man stuff. I can't, So I don't think he's going to do it. So I don't know who they could have gotten that's like an A-list star, because Kid Rock is like a B-list star. So they're going to do their thing.
I think you're giving Kid Rock too much credit. How about a C-list star?
Can you guys think of a Kid Rock song? Can anybody just off the top of your head, like, what's the name of one? Because I know he did have a song. He had one hit. He was like a one-hit wonder. He did have like a hit, which I can't remember what it was. But for a minute, he did have like one kind of hit, right? Were y'all enjoying my Lara? I guess people like my Lara Trump. You got to sing. And you got to do the hand like when you're really doing a run. I could have never done this on the artist formerly known as MSNBC. They would have been running into the room to drag me out of the studio. But in the breaks, trust me and believe, this is how I was. This is literally what I did through every commercial break. If you all used to watch me on AM Joy or the ReidOut, trust and believe it was literally until they said 3, 2, 1. And my poor executive producer, Tina Urbanski, I'm sure was dying inside in the control room waiting for me to stop, because I would sing and do this through the whole break. So just so you know, That's what I was doing during the breaks. If y'all ever wondered what was happening during the breaks on the ReidOut or AMJ, this was it. We used to say we should make a separate show. And my poor stage managers and poor downtown Sterling Brown, who was the director, was like, we're coming back. We're coming back. We're coming back.
That's how it is when we get ready to start the show. It's like, Joy, we're getting ready to go live. Joy, we're going live. Come on, get together. Yeah, I know. There you go. That's it.
I mean, because it's funny. But yes, so there is an alternative performance that's happening, that's coming. We're waiting for our guest, and this is a good one, because the reality is it almost kind of doesn't matter.
Our guest is here if you would like
absolutely. They're excellent. Who's in the halftime show or who wins the game? If you are a person that is going to be persecuted or harmed, and you can't enjoy either because of ICE. So joining me now to discuss all of this is the good mayor of Oakland, former civic activist and anti-war Congresswoman extraordinaire, the iconic Mayor Barbara Lee. How are you, Madam Mayor?
Joy, I'm so great. How are you doing? And I'm glad to see you. And you got to come back and visit Oakland. You know, we miss you here. It's been a few months now.
I know. And so the mayor has promised me like a restaurant tour. So I'm going back. Like the restaurant we went to when we were there was so dope that we need to go to like a few. I want to do like a restaurant hop.
Well, you know, for the second year, we're the top restaurant city in the country now. All right.
So, I say less. I'm there. I mean, you don't have to say less. You said restaurant. You just, top restaurant. I'm there. Yeah, we pick a few.
Second year.
Second year in a row. Fabulous. Love it. Love it. Love it. And yes, we do love Oakland. We love the vibes. But you know what I'm concerned about for the whole Bay Area, which is such a cool, easy breezy, vibesy part of the country, is this fear that ICE is going to destroy the calm and the cool during the Super Bowl weekend. How concerned are you about that?
Well, concerned, but not fearful. You know, we're prepared. Oaklanders are resilient. We have a safety plan. I've signed a couple of executive orders which says no ICE. We're a sanctuary city, of course, but we're not going to allow any staging on city property. City employees cannot provide city services based on citizenship, documented or not. And so we're ready, and our police department understands and knows very well no cooperation with ICE. So we're hoping everybody will come and have a good time, and that the message has gone out. Also, let me just say, we're the only NFL approved sanctioned city for the watch party here in Northern California, outside, of course, of the stadium down in Santa Clara, but we're the official city. And so we have like 7,000 people coming for the whole weekend. So it's going to be a family affair. We had an HBCU. Right now it's taking place, Divine Nine HBCU football game, legacy football game. And so we're on the move.
How do you keep, because when you say hotels, and it used to be when you say hotels, I think, ooh, because I love hotels. Now when someone says hotels, I think ICE in the lobby. I think ICE waiting outside. And that I think is the fear, is that ordinary activities that we all have just come to take for granted, they're showing up there on purpose because they know, especially in California, there are going to be non-white people there.
Yeah, they're showing up at Home Depots and Walmarts. They're showing up. But let me tell you, they show up, we push back. And part of them showing up is to create chaos and to create an opening for the military to come in and try to occupy Oakland. But we're not going to let that happen. And we pride ourselves, Joy, on peaceful protests. I mean, I'm out there. We all are out there. We believe in First Amendment rights, but we also know their playbook. I always say no one in Oakland knows Donald Trump's playbook better than myself. I was sitting on the floor of Congress January 6th and barely got out of there. I was serving in Congress at least 4 years when he was in power over there at the White House. And so we understand that play. And we're not going to let him have an opening to come in and rip us off and try to create chaos and start occupying Oakland. And we are ready, though. And we have a safety plan, and we're prepared, and we're supporting our immigrant community. They're fearful, and we're part of a regional fund to help raise money to help them out.
You mentioned being in Congress. I'm going to utilize your status as a former member of Congress just to talk for a minute about these demands that the Democrats, I think, have very logically made. Targeted enforcement instead of racial profiling, no mask, requiring these masked regime police to show ID, take off the masks, not racially profile, protect sensitive locations like childcare facilities, churches. They claim to care about people going to churches, polling places, which is a key one, and courts, having body cameras, no paramilitary police, talking with the local government and making sure the local government is read into what they're doing. These seem like such simple and logical requests, and yet Republicans are calling them outrageous and radical. What do you make of that?
They're outrageous and radical. These requests are requests, they're constitutional, and they're there to ensure public safety, and they're there to ensure that we do not have chaos. I mean, that's what this is about. And racial profiling, this is part of an agenda of dehumanizing people, Joy. When you dehumanize people, you can do anything you want to, because then you're not seen as a human being. And so I think these demands are what I would support if I were still in Congress, and more. And so as reasonable as they are, the Republicans and the MAGAs are seeming to be the unreasonable ones. And I think this demonstrates that, because what do they want? People to get killed by their own government, their taxpayers? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I support them, and I hope that the negotiations continue and the Democrats hold firm.
If you were still in Congress, would you recommend letting I don't think it's going to be a full government shutdown, but allowing the Department of Homeland Security to run out of money? Now, just to be clear for the chats, they still have $125 billion with a B sitting in there from Donald Trump's big ugly bill. So even though they're going to run out of new funding in 2 weeks, ICE essentially would would still be able to keep on cooking, because they've got all that money that was given to that paramilitary, organization, as if they're a foreign military. So, but would you support letting the funding run to zero?
Yes, I would. And I never supported ICE. I always opposed ICE, and I barely supported Homeland Security, and ICE was within Homeland Security. Sometimes you have to stay your ground, and we have to make sure that vulnerable people who will be hurt, we have a mechanism here in Oakland, and I know throughout the country and in most Democratic districts, to make sure that, because they want to attack the most vulnerable people with shutdowns. And so we have to hold firm, and we have to support people who could get laid off, our immigrant community, people who have jobs that would be impacted. And at the local level, we have to stay firm and support cities and residents who would be impacted by a shutdown. But we have to use our leverage right now, because this is about life or death, and it's about constitutional policing, and ICE is a paramilitary group. And why would we want to fund that?
What do you make of the Democrats who are running in terror from the phrase abolish ICE?
Well, what can I say? Democrats are Democrats. We have all, they say it's a big tent party, different points of views.
I mean, we don't mind a big tent, but we don't want a big tent full of wusses, because we're fighting fascism here.
Yeah, we are. And I was one of the first ones using the F word. People, every time I go into our Democratic caucus, I say,
she means fascism, chat. This is a Christian for the Christians in the chat.
But I would say, y'all don't want to use the F word, fascism, until Madeleine Albright wrote her book, Fascism, A Warning. That's when Democrats started using that F word, fascism. And so, some Democrats can't get there yet. And I hope they get there. But everyone has different I know the politics of what's going on within the Democratic caucus, but you've seen a lot of movement with Democrats, and we have to just keep pushing. And it's the power of the people at the local level, people's voices. The Democrats and I don't know about Republicans, but Democrats, I know, listen to their constituents. So we have to do more organizing in districts where Democrats aren't quite there yet. And I've seen it over time, how more Democrats now are saying abolish ICE. More Democrats now are saying this is a dictatorship in the making. More Democrats are saying this is what fascism looks like. So I've seen the evolution, Joy.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, listen, the bottom line is when my mother became a citizen of this country, there was no such thing as ICE. And it was perfectly fine to have the Immigration and Naturalization Service. It worked perfectly well. There was no ICE until 9/11. It doesn't really make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all. But again, ICE is there not for good, but for moving people out that they don't want in this country. You know, you got to remember what white supremacy is about too, and what the other is. I mean, this country was built on immigrants. And when you look at what's taking place, it's immigrants primarily from countries that look like us. Caribbean, South America, Central America, Africa. We can't forget that this is about Haiti. It's about, believe me, we need to look at the demographics of the immigrants that they are trying to, if not move out, trying to harm, jail, and kill.
Yeah, and I will note that the TPS, temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants, has officially expired, and they do not, clearly they're not going to renew it. Let me take advantage also, again, of your former status as the United States Congressman. There are a few, Republicans even on the Senate side, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and a couple on the House side, who have been alarmed by the militarism of this current regime. I mean, they are aggressively pursuing a quiet, undeclared war against Venezuela. They've now put in their own sort of version of the government, which is basically the same government, just without Maduro, same secret police, same terrorism of that community, but just people that are more amenable, I guess, to do what Donald Trump says. Plus the ongoing war on fishermen in the Caribbean, including from Nicki Minaj's home country of Trinidad, which she doesn't seem to care much about. What do you make of the fact that this Congress has not stood up more for its own alleged authority to declare war?
Well, I'm disappointed and not happy about that at all, because this is a clear moment where Congress needs to assert its responsibility, its constitutional responsibility of oversight and of declaring or not declaring war. And so the members, Massey and Rand Paul and all the members, some of the MAGAs I worked with very closely, Joy. And so we got to build that support around the country for Republicans and Democrats to support bringing back Congress's constitutional responsibility in terms of the authorizations to use force. But let me tell you, I voted against the Iraq authorization way back in the day. It took me, and I introduced the repeal of it in 2014. It finally got signed into law a couple of months ago. Okay, I went back to DC. It was included in the National Defense Authorization Act, which I would have voted against the whole bill. But I got that repealed. So remember, Bush declared war had ended in 2003. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama said it formally ended in 2010, but it was still used, the Iraq authorization of 2002, until just now. And I've worked day and night since 2014 to get it repealed. So that's finally repealed. So this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we have to make sure people understand they have got to weigh in, because if they don't weigh in, their members aren't going to do anything that makes sense. They'll be afraid to do anything, Democrats and Republicans. And so I've really, coming from Oakland, it's always been the power of the people, and we got to get back to that, because that's what democracy is about. And so these authorizations to use military force are bad. They use them for wars and domestic spying and all kinds of stuff, bad stuff. Every president, including President Obama, until they repeal them. And so we have to make sure that our voices are heard in Congress. Otherwise, they're going to keep tiptoeing around all this stuff.
Indeed. Well, let me end on a up note. I've got two up notes for you. First question to you, Madam Mayor. What are you going to be doing for the Super Bowl? What kind of fun do you have going, or what's the menu?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, we just had a Divine Nine HBCU.
Oh, I see you in your Zeta. That was going to be my next question. I see you in your Zeta blue.
Yeah.
Bigging up Dr. Stacey Grant, your wonderful international president. She's a wonderful human being, as are you. So yes, big up to our Zetas in the chat. Let's get those blue hearts going in all of the chats. Listen.
That's how I kicked it off. Then, of course, we're the official watch party city. So I'm going to be Sunday at our watch party events, but I'm going to San Francisco to meet members of the Congressional Black Caucus to they're having events there now across the Bay, and I'm taking my Visit Oakland message to them. So the next time they will be in Oakland, we're having a big food fest at the arena tomorrow at the Coliseum Arena, and just all kinds of parties and food and festivals. And we have a strong public safety strategy working with our regional public safety officers. We've got 7,000 people RSVP'd to come to Oakland to participate. Our vendors, our Black-owned businesses will be there. Our music, we have musicians, local musicians. We're the home of a lot of the visionaries in the country, so they'll be there. And Marshawn Lynch is around. We have some of the players here, and so it's a family. Everything is free. And in fact, I'll take the moment to say, if you're in the Bay Area coming to Oakland, take public transportation, please. Take bus, take AC Transit, and come have a good time. Everything is free. We're going to have a lot of food, a lot of fun, and be safe. And just don't let any provocateurs mess us up, because we're going to have a good time. Okay.
Amen. Well, the only ice we want to see is in the cocktails or mocktails. Everybody, we want y'all to have fun. And listen, this is one of the most fun cities I can attest personally in America. Oakland is the place to be on this weekend. I'm envious that I'm not going to be there. I said it that I wanted to come out for the food fest. You're now going to have to host every single member of the Joy Reid Show team, because they're all like, "Oh, I want to be in on this food fest." They're like, "Not without me."
Joy, we can eat our way through Oakland, and then you can do your show from the Black Panther Party Museum and take a tour.
What do you make of this revival of the Black Panther Party? Is it real?
It's real. Yeah, it's real.
So there's a new Black Panther Party, a younger
party now. It's new. It's 2026 version.
Okay.
We've got to look. I'm not sure if they're that active here in Oakland, but they are in other parts of the country.
Okay. Well, listen.
Hawkins is here. Elaine Brown, Frederica Newton. The artist who used to do all the paintings for the Black Panther Party.
Yes.
Papers, Bobby Seale. We declared here and dedicated a street. Now it's Bobby Seale Way here in Oakland. So it's like, please, I was at Huey Newton's where he used to live yesterday at 1200 Lakeshore. Now, come on, okay?
Okay, listen, say less. We are sold. The chats are sold. There's a lot of blue hearts for the Zeta Phi Beta family. They're loving you in the chats to my left and to my right. Everybody is bigging you up, Madam Mayor. Y'all, please go and party in the Bay Area. Do it in Oakland. Oakland is where the party is this weekend, everyone. If you are on the West Coast, get on out there. Have a great time at the Super Bowl. Madam Mayor, thank you so much for coming on and promoting your wonderful city. And we will book that Eat Our Way Through Oakland plan. I love it.
Thank you, Joy. So good to see you, my sister. We miss
Thank you, sister.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Love you right back. Listen,
beautiful. I love your hair. It looks
thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. I got a little endorsement on the hair. Thank y'all very much. Oh, that was a lot of fun, you guys. Now I'm hyped. I'm hyped for the Super Bowl. Jason, are you sufficiently hyped?
I still have work to do.
The Zetas. Listen, when I tell you something, the Zetas, when they
Your
up there,
are gonna get mad at you, girl.
No, listen, it's D9 love. All the D9. One thing about D9, it's all love. We all love one another. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We love our Zetas. We love our AKAs. We love everybody. We love all of the D9. So the D9 just love one another, and we stick together. And even if you're me, fi me, and you're not in the, we still love you. We love everybody. We are lovers and fighters. How about that? So that is going to be fantastic. Thank you all very much for taking a listen to that. The mayor is a cool lady. She's cool. That's one of the cool people to know. I'm very blessed. This job, one thing I love about this job, you get to meet cool people who are your idols, and sometimes they're actually pretty fabulous. So now, even though we've left you on that good note, before I release you to your fabulous weekend to go and listen to your Lara Trump CDs or your Lara Trump downloads from iTunes or wherever she puts her stuff, you do need to know, okay, seriously, on a real serious note, that Donald Trump, your president, is about to help himself.
Are we going into Block E, Joy?
We are.
Okay.
He's about to help himself to $10 billion. Hear me now. $10 billion with a B of your money. He's about to help himself to $10 billion with a B of your money. He's not content with just raking in money from crypto scams and from foreign governments who were giving him golf course contracts and literal crowns, development deals for his scammy sons, handing Gaza over to real estate developer Jared and whatever Ivanka's getting out of it, plus that Melania movie bribe, $40 million in her pockets for a crap movie that no one likes. For his next act, after getting all of those emoluments that are supposed to be illegal, but the John Roberts said, it's fine, take bribes. For his next act, your president is going to help himself to $10 billion of your hard-earned money by suing the IRS that he controls and then having his employee, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, whom he controls, who's in charge of the IRS, having Scott Bessent cut him a check at the direction of his other employee, Pamela Joe Bondi, who he controls. Don't believe me? I want y'all to listen to Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego asking Scott Bessent about what I just said this week.
Secretary Bessent, thank you again for being here today. We kind of touched on this earlier. In addition to being Treasury Secretary, you are serving as acting director of the IRS. So following up on Senator Kim's questioning, so you are fully aware that the president is suing your agency for $10 billion.
Yeah.
We would agree. Would you agree that $10 billion is a good sum of money?
Yes, sir.
Where would that be cut from? Let's say for some reason he actually wins that lawsuit. Where would that $10 billion come from?
Again, it would come from
process-wise. I'm not asking like your opinion whether it's right or wrong.
It would come from Treasury.
It comes from Treasury, which comes from the general fund?
The Treasury general account.
So taxpayers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Part of the 440,000 taxpayers whose returns were leaked.
But if the president prevails in this lawsuit, he's going to be able to pocket that money. My question is the president, has anyone in the president's office talked to you about this lawsuit in any regard?
They have not, and the president has said he will donate the proceeds to charity. You may have missed that.
So no one at all has discussed this to you whatsoever?
No, sir, and the president said he will.
Have you received, I didn't ask any more questions. Have you received any advice from Treasury's legal division about how to handle this potential conflict?
This is a Justice Department matter. They represent Treasury in it.
Have someone from the Department of Justice actually come and talk to you saying that this is their purview and you need to stay out of it? Or who has discussed to you what is your role in this?
Our general counsel, who's sitting behind me, has told me that it is a Justice Department matter. The Justice Department defends Treasury in matters like this.
Okay, so it has been discussed with you. Do you have any final say at all in the process of this? Or is the DOJ just going to instruct you to cut a check and or settle and you have no independence to actually make a decision whether or not the president deserves $10 billion?
Again, that is a DOJ matter.
And so the DOJ will entirely make that decision if and whether or not the president should receive $10 billion. You have no say at all.
Correct.
So you would just have to write the check if you were told to write the check.
Correct.
And you would write the check willingly if you were told by the DOJ to the president.
I will follow the law, Senator.
Okay. I mean, I think for many of us, this is very simple. And I think if this had been happening in any other countries, it would look an absolute, like a total shakedown of the American taxpayer. Are you also?
And by the way, this lawsuit is because Donald Trump's tax information, the fact that he didn't pay taxes for most of his adult life, was discovered by a news organization. And so he's suing the IRS because of the journalists being able to discover that he, like his father before him, is a tax cheat. And so he's suing the IRS that he controls. And then you heard it, right? You heard Scott Bessent said it. It is Pam Bondi of the Department of Injustice who is in charge of the lawsuit representing Treasury. So she could simply order the lawsuit to be settled. And if she orders it to be settled, Scott Bessent cuts Donald Trump a check for $10 billion, which he claims, I'm going to give it to charity. If you don't think that the charity is called DonaldTrump.org, you might be a MAGA fool, because they are the only people stupid enough to believe that Donald Trump is going to take $10 billion of your money that Pam Bondi orders Scott Bessent to write out of your money, that the money in the general fund, that's your money. When Scott Bessent, and it's not an if, it's a when, Scott Bessent writes in that check, he going to give that money to the American Cancer Society? BS. No, he's not. The charity is probably going to be Trump.org, Trump University. It's going to go to him. America, you have been scammed And the reason that Donald Trump and his Republican gang are so desperate to hold on to the House and the Senate is because the moment that the weak, supine, useless, monarchist Republicans no longer control the House and the Senate, the scam faucet turns off. Because even as inadequate as Democrats as a collective can sometimes seem, they as a group are highly unlikely to allow Donald Trump to continue stealing once Republicans are no longer in charge. They're also now highly motivated to release whatever it is that's in the Epstein files, which is clearly so damning that Trump wigs out on any journalist, especially women journalists, who dare to ask him about it. And his AI and techno-feudalist friends are racing to shut down any and all media outlets by buying them up and wrecking them, from the Washington Post to CBS News to X Twitter to Meta to TikTok, maybe for no reason at all, or maybe for a really creepy reason. So the race is on for Trump to steal as much as possible, right? And pocket as much of your money as possible before January 1st, 2027, when a new Congress would be sworn in. Before then, the Make-A-Wish president will be running NASCAR races on the White House lawn for America's birthday and holding the Man Olympics, bringing himself and buying himself an ark. He's going to build himself, not buying, but building an ark on the Capitol grounds at your expense, which is supposedly going to be larger than the Lincoln Memorial, destroying the Kennedy Center by turning it into Baby Mar-a-Lago and covering it with ugly, tacky gold and slapping his hideous name on the front of it, doing all sorts of outrageous, illegal things while gawking cryptocurrency and foreign emoluments. Again, John Roberts said it's fine for the president to take bribes, perfectly legal. He's going to keep doing all of that until he's forced to stop. To reiterate, Donald Trump will continue committing crimes until he is forced to stop. His Department of Homeland Security will keep committing crimes until they are forced to stop. And the Department of Injustice under Pamela Jo Bondi will also continue committing crimes until they are forced to stop. And the only entity in this country that can force them to stop is Congress. And that is why Donald Trump and Republicans are plotting right now, even as we're on the show, even as you're sitting in the chats, to steal the November election. And if you really want to steal an election, and your base, their smoothed out brains are filled with conspiracy theory, but you want them to forget about the one conspiracy theory you don't want to think about, which is QAnon, the one involving a global pedo ring, because, it might help if you confirm some of their other conspiracy theories, right? Using government action that puts an official looking stamp on those other non-Epstein conspiracy theories. So like, for instance, if you told your base, right, that the very dead Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez, used some sort of magic machine to steal the votes from you, maybe you start seizing 2020 ballots, right? Just like your QAnon curious former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, and other people told you to do in 2020. Maybe you go into Fulton County and you start seizing ballots so that you can start to pretend like, ooh, look, there's some kind of crime here. That's why we took the ballots. Maybe that's what you do, right? And that's what they did. There they go. You go in and you say, ooh, there's something nefarious here. We'll just have people with the FBI uniforms on show up and start taking ballots so that then the public will go, well, they wouldn't take the ballots if there wasn't something wrong, right? I mean, there had to be something to it. Otherwise, why are they seizing the ballots? You start getting people thinking, wow, maybe there really was a crime in Fulton County. Maybe they really did take something. Like that thing that Donald Trump posted today, which was walking through this conspiracy theory that the votes stopped being counted at 6:35 a.m. and then they started being counted again. And instead of just the Occam's razor explanation being, well, because the other ballots came in, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, Sigma Gamma Rho. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Did I? Oh, okay. I'll do it at the end. So, right. So you take the ballots, to use a Trumpism. Once you have them, you can do anything you want. You can do anything you want to them. What are the voters going to, who the voters going to call? Kash Patel, Pam Bondi? Like, you already put compromised, incompetent lackeys in charge of every federal agency. What are they going to do? And then maybe, if this is your conspiracy theory that Venezuela was behind the stealing of the ballots, maybe like you arrest the current president of Venezuela. Maybe you just take him into custody. You just pick him up with his wife, and people go, ooh, maybe there's something that he did wrong. Maybe there's a reason that Maduro got picked up. Maybe there's a reason that the national security, the guy who's in charge of the woman who's in charge of national security, probably that she's there. That's weird. Why is the national security director there? You've got her there, like observing the ballot seizing. Like, maybe there's something really to it, which really kind of makes me wonder, what it is that Senator Ron Wyden was so alarmed about that he sent this urgent letter to the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, 2 days ago. Let's put up that urgent letter where he says, I am deeply concerned about CIA activities. That's weird, right? This senator just sends this urgent letter to the CIA director saying, I'm deeply concerned about CIA activities after the director of national intelligence shows up in Fulton County, Georgia to oversee the seizing of election ballots. It's like, it's very weird. Like, what is the CIA doing? It's a weird thing, right? Did I mention that Palantir was founded with CIA money? Was funded by the CIA originally, and that the CIA was also the customer that launched Oracle, the company founded by Larry Ellison, the guy who just bought a huge chunk of TikTok and who's the father of David Ellison, who now owns Paramount. And he's also the guy who had this very enthusiastic take about a year ago about turning this country into a total surveillance state.
Schools, we think we can absolutely lock down schools so that dramatically reduce the case of anyone being on campus that doesn't belong on campus, and immediately alert, the second someone pulls out a gun, immediately alert, use AI cameras to immediately recognize that. The police, another thing, body cameras, we completely redesigned body cameras. Our body cameras cost $70. Normal body camera costs, I don't know, $7,000. Our body cameras are simply lenses, two lenses attached to your vest, attached to the smartphone that you're wearing. And we actually take the video that the police officer is, by the way, and the camera's always on. You don't turn it on and off. And by the way you turn it on, you can't turn it on. I'm going to the bathroom. Oracle, I need 2 minutes to take a bathroom break, and we'll turn it off. The truth is, we don't really turn it off. What we do is we record it so no one can see it, but no one can get into that recording without a court order. So you get the privacy you requested, but a court order, if you get a court order, we will, judge, can order, I want to look at that, this so-called bathroom break. If there's something comes up, and plus, I'm going to lunch with my friends. Oracle, I need an hour for privacy with lunch with my friends. God bless. We won't listen in unless there's a court order. But it's interesting. But we transmit the video back to headquarters. So headquarters and AI is constantly monitoring the video. Remember this terrible case in Memphis where the 5 police officers basically beat to death another citizen in Memphis? Well, that can't happen because it would be on TV at headquarters. Everyone would see it. Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
That's weird, right? Very strange. Unless you get too comfortable with that total surveillance state, know that ICE is using Palantir-related tech to spy on your neighborhoods to try to hunt down non-white immigrants. And the violent tactics that they are using likely will return in November when Trump has called on Republicans to nationalize the elections. And Steve Bannon has bragged that they plan to do so using ICE at the polls. So if you really want to steal an election, you can claim that mail-in ballots are fraudulent, and you have proof now because you grabbed the ballots in Fulton County, Georgia, and then you put the blue states under effective martial law using your armed paramilitaries and maybe even the U.S. military, since the very compromised, accused sex pest TV host, who denies it all, of course, is in charge, and he'll do whatever you say. And maybe under that effective martial law, those blue states are disallowed from using absentee ballots, so you can force every voter into the maw of Election Day voting. And they'll be doing that with the armed paramilitaries watching their every move. Hell, maybe some people will be too scared to vote at all. Or maybe a few people will get dragged out of line to check their citizenship. And maybe even if they prove they're citizens, maybe they don't get released till after the polls closed. And then John Roberts and friends on the Supreme Court belatedly rule in that case that they've got sitting in front of them that in fact states cannot count ballots after Election Day under any circumstances. And just to be on the safe side, House Republicans have now passed in their body the SAVE Act, which will put into law and codify the idea that everybody who wants to vote needs to prove their citizenship in advance, and that their names have to match their birth certificates, which means a lot of married women who've changed their names because they got married will suddenly find themselves ineligible. A lot of people who've changed their names, particularly every trans person who's transitioned and changed their names, suddenly ineligible, which is sure going to cut down on the size of the electorate that might vote against Trump and Republicans. Look, Donald Trump may not be a smart man, but he's certainly a determined one. And he and his Project 2025 pals at Heritage are operating from written plans, unlike the other side, who are just trying to keep up with the fire hose as it drowns all of us. And while he's in power, Trump isn't just looting the country. Like any good looter, he's doing a smash and grab. He's smashing, wrecking, and destroying everything he can while he steals and puts compromised and incompetent people in charge of every agency that could, in theory, stand in his way or stop him, while firing hundreds of thousands of federal employees who could have told on him. This while the tech bros are replacing your jobs with AI and putting you under total and complete surveillance run by men who were pen pals with Jeffrey Epstein. Which is why the dismantling of media like CBS News and the Washington Post is doubly bad and doubly deliberate. It's a problem that I think we have to address, because while that may sound paranoid and maybe a little crazy, it's kind of hard to not be paranoid. Because what Donald Trump and his friends are doing is not just dismantling the country, not just dismantling the safeguards, not just stealing. They're getting rid of any ways that they could be caught by taking over the media, which is why independent media is kind of all that's going to be left. And if they then decide to attack the infrastructure that allows independent media to speak to you, well, then who's going to stop them? And like every mystery movie, every murder mystery, every mystery that you've ever seen, it always comes down to theft. Like it usually starts as some sort of ideological thing, but it's always money. Remember Die Hard, where you go through the whole movie thinking that there's some big plot that is like meaningful and like deep, but it's actually just a theft. The whole movie was just a bunch of guys who wanted to steal. And in this case, all of these tech bros, the techno-feudalists, the theocrat, the theo bros, they just want to create a country where they can steal at will and nobody will stop them or tax them. They just want to be in charge and have everyone else essentially be cattle. That's it. It's not like a complicated conspiracy, but it is a conspiracy. Okay, so I think we really do need a moment of joy at this moment. It does come from a familiar face, one Jake Lang, who was supposedly running for office in Florida, but who was back in Minneapolis doing his weird act, kicking down a sculpture that was put in place by a veterans organization. And here's how that played out.
Pro-life, baby! America first, America only! We'll see you here, February 7th, Saturday, 12 noon, outside the Minnesota State Capitol.
Damn, Jay, they doing you like that? I'm going out like that. Damn, Jay, that's the whole crew. Support ICE. Support your President Trump. Damn, Jay.
He's such an idiot. There it is, Jake Lang. A veterans group put up that ICE sculpture, anti-ICE ICE sculpture, and he decided to kick it down with the least athletic kicking that I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And now he was arrested. Is probably going to have to pay a $6,000 fine. It's not going well for Jake Lang. Jason, did I get the sorority wrong for our wonderful mayor? I think I might have put her in Zeta when she's actually Sigma Gamma Rho. So my bad if I did that. Did I get that wrong?
That's what the team was saying.
I apologize. I am so sorry. Yep, sorry about that. That was my mistake. I got the wrong right color.
You did include the D9, though.
But I did include all the D9. Yeah, so big ups to Zeta Phi Beta as well as Sigma.
Okay,
Sigma,
Joy, I'm about to do a shameless plug again.
Please do the shameless plug.
Okay, guys, please take out your cell phones And that QR code, in the bottom right side of your screen, go ahead and take a picture of that and go ahead and vote for the Joy Reid Show, please.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you
very much. Yes, please vote for us. We appreciate that. Also, please do not forget to get your love questions in to Miss Maddie J. We are so excited about this. This is like one of our favorite things that's going to happen very soon. Miss Maddie J will be here to answer your pre-Valentine's Day questions. We're doing it 2 days before Valentine's Day, so you have time to still go out and buy the right gift and not mess up. So if you have a love question, whether you are a lady, a man, if you're non-binary, if you're LGBTQ, straight, cis, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. She can answer any questions. Please join in and ask Maddie J your questions and send your questions to Mattie J, AskMattiej, at thejoyreidshow.com. She will answer your questions. It's going to be hilarious. This is next Wednesday, February 11th, also known as Whitney Houston Day, and also my lovely late mother's birthday as well. So that is going to be happening next week. I also want to notice that's next Wednesday. The day before that, on Tuesday, we have a really great interview. I just screened it, watched it last night. It was actually really great and in-depth. We did a full hour interview with Salam Mariyati, who is the founder and president of the Muslim Public Affairs Committee. It is really, really an interesting interview. He has a lot to say, an extended conversation about the state of Muslims in America. That's coming up on Tuesday. Am I missing anything else, Jason? I think I got it all. I think that's it.
I think you got it all. All you have to say is have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.
Sounds good. Everybody enjoy Bad Bunny Bowl and go Seahawks. Thank y'all very much. A heiferologist will be here next Wednesday, y'all. You do not want to miss this. I cannot wait. I might come up with some. Do we have some heifer questions, Jason? Somebody been looking at Jason funny? Anybody in the chat giving Jason that side look? I'm gonna get the heiferologist on you.
I'm gonna stay out of it.
Heiferology. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Love y'all. Peace. Goodbye.
Getting back to the basics, grassroots level. Let me dig a little deeper with the shovel. Plenty can't tell the forest from the trees that I'm hard to detect. Like a black hole in the dark. Injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. Let me make this clear, I got a bone to pick. And I'll never fear the threat of poverty. They don't want to talk about it, they rather party. So I'm a real talk about it, for sure.